Happy quarterly estimated taxes due day! I know, super fun, super exciting. Woohoo, noisemaker, right? But seriously, they don't have to be so bad. So today I'm sharing with you, I like to call it my Mama Jama spreadsheet. It's a pretty wicked spreadsheet that I use to keep everything money related for my business in line. To keep in mind is that I might look super smart with these glasses on, but I'm not an accountant and I'm not a tax expert. So, with that being said, let's not waste any more time and let's get nerdy with some numbers, shall we? So, the first tab that I want to start with is the tab Data Points. And basically, this is kind of a resource tab for the entire file. So, the first column that you'll notice is business categories. And basically anything that is money in or money out as I want it categorized is going to be listed here. The next is personal categories, then our project types, and basically this is just the different ways that I make money in my business. Then home office percentage, so basically the square footage that my home office takes up as a part of my entire home, and that allows me to claim some of my mortgage payment as a business expense. If you work from home, you can add this information in. And then federal and state tax percentages. I've worked with my accountant and figured out these percentages. Right now, I just have some dummy information in place so you guys can see how this spreadsheet works. The last section, and again, these have some notes kind of spread out, but it's basically blank but formatted cells that you might need for the different sections of the spreadsheet. So then the next section I want to talk about is the scorecard. And so this is kind of a good place to get a full review, but I wanted to show what it looks like blank before we really get going into the data. So in this tab, anything that you see in gray is information that you're going to want to fill in yourself. So we'll start current year, then goals, and I have change these so that they relate a little bit more to you. Don't expect everyone has a Yaris, but basically just entering in goals. So what are my income goals for each month of the year? How much do I want to have my car paid off throughout the year? And then the totals, this is going to calculate for you, so we'll get to that in just a minute. Mileage, I really don't travel, so for me, just a simple chart where I can enter in my mileage throughout the year and keep a running total works beautifully. You might need something a little bit more intense than that, so feel free to add a new tab and kind of build on this. Future invoices due, that'll calculate for us automatically, and income by percentages will calculate automatically. And then the last thing that you need to fill in as far as getting this document set up is your yearly comparison. And so this is just a way to kind of enter in how your business has been performing throughout the years. So you can add more rows or take out rows depending on what you need. And then this spreadsheet will calculate the percent increase for you, your monthly average, and then the total income for the year. You'll just want to add your increase goal if that's something you want to track. So let's switch over to a spreadsheet that has some content in it. So we'll start with the personal tab. So personal and business are essentially the same tab, and they're where you enter in your expenses. So let's say I went grocery shopping today, so 115. Category, that's going to be for me food, because grocery shopping tends to have some food involved. Grocery store, let's say I spent $80 and it's this week's groceries. Oops, spelling is helpful. So basically, you can add in whatever information you want, but one thing that I want to point out, you might have noticed, is that the category tab has a drop-down menu, and what that is pulling from is those data points that we talked about. So all of these, and there's actually an extra because I didn't want to assume that these would be exactly what you wanted. So you can add another one. Those will show up in this drop-down section. And then business, again, same thing, except there's an additional tab called project type. So anywhere that I'm tracking income, I can add the project that the income relates to, and again, that's pulling from this project type section. One thing about the expenses that I want to point out is that there are two hidden columns in play here. So what's happening behind the scenes is the spreadsheet is taking the date that you enter and pulling the month that you're entering data for. And the same thing is happening in the personal tab. So that will kind of help in the next upcoming tabs that we'll talk about. But just know that that's going on behind the scenes, and that's why it starts with C instead of A. So the next tab in the spreadsheet is projects. Again, some dummy data. Sorry, I cracked myself up. So just entering in the project name, entering in the project type. Again, this pulls from the data points. Client name, I like to abbreviate my clients for records, so I just enter in the abbreviation so everyone on my team knows what's going on. And then estimate total and amount paid. What this spreadsheet will do is calculate a balance remaining by simply subtracting what they've paid from the total. And that comes into play in the scorecard, so we'll go over that. But this running balance just kind of helps me know what money I can expect to see in the future. So the month overview tab is where you can go to see how your income and spending is going for the month. So just simply type whatever month you want to view the data for and hit enter. And what it'll do is it'll pull any data that you have in play for that month. So I had entered some dummy data for my goals. And then I also, as you saw, had some spending tabs. Going back to that month. So what it does is it keeps a running total of those expenses. And again, this is pulling from the data points. So if you update it in one place, it'll change everywhere. So let's say instead of food, I'm going to call this groceries. I'm going to hit enter. And then we'll go to the month tab and you'll see that groceries is here. Now, because I have entered in data as food, I need to update that. So that's why it's important to go in and set those categories up before you get too much data into place, because it might be kind of a pain to have to go back and recategorize. But just know that you can customize these to whatever works for you. And then over here in each column, so personal and business, it tracks income and expenses and separates the two, so what the difference is and if I've made a profit. These two cells right here that are selected are formatted conditionally, so if there was more expenses than income, it would display in red, so kind of helping me stay on track with my spending and my budgeting. One thing that I do want to point out is the office utilities section. So this formula up here is pretty wicked looking, but basically what's going on is it is taking any data that I've entered in personal for house or utilities, and it is multiplying it by the percent of my office, so that home office percentage, and it's adding that to my office utilities bill. And so what that is doing is, you know, kind of factoring in that mortgage payment and any utility bills that I've paid on the house that apply to my home office. So for me, I really need to stay on the ball and make sure that what I'm entering into house and utilities also apply to my business. So that's why I created this household tab category, because that category then allows me to put in things that wouldn't factor into my business. So just something to kind of keep in mind. The other thing that I want to point out on this is that the expenses tab does not calculate the 401k. So if you change this 401k category to something else, you'll want to update the formula so that it includes this cell as well. Obviously 401k is money I still get to keep, so I don't want to consider that an expense. And then kind of on the same breath, sorry, I should have gone back a little bit, office utilities, what this total does for personal is it subtracts the amount that I'm including in my office utilities. So basically I'm not calculating that expense twice. So I'm not charging myself twice for that money that I've spent. So moving on to the year tab, it's basically the same as the month tab, except it's the entire year. It's a little bit more daunting because there's a lot of charts in here, but we'll walk through. So current year, type in whatever you want, and what it does is updates these labels. So if it were 2015, all of these would change, just to give you an idea. And what I tried to do is divide these up into really easy to print sections. So this entire section would print, this entire section would print, and that way you kind of have the labels all kept together. So just like the month tab, personal expenses subtracts the amount that I'm including for my home office, and office utilities adds the amount from my personal expenses that counts for my office. And then over here we have kind of totals, averages, highs, and lows, broken again apart. So this is income and spending, this is expenses by category, and this is business expenses by category. So it just kind of helps you get an idea of what's going on. You know, the data right in January is a little skewed, obviously 48 divided by 12. If I had only spent $48 on my office throughout the entire year, that would be awesome. But more realistically, I'm going to be spending a little bit more, so that number will change as the year goes on. The one section I wanted to talk about and really focus on here is estimated taxes. So again, this is where it kind of takes my income and multiplies it by those data points and allows me to figure out what my estimated taxes are. The nice thing is that it includes what you've paid except any amount that you've paid in January. So let's just look at the formula here. So I'm going to click on it so it highlights what's included. So you can see it's including state taxes from February through December. And the reason for that is today happens to be a quarterly estimated due date. So it's January 15th. That is for last year's quarterly taxes. So I don't want to discount what I owe for this new year by the amount I paid for last year. So January is not included. However, if I went into my business and let's say I made a payment in January, which isn't a due date, but we'll just kind of go by the numbers here. So let's say I paid some federal taxes to the IRS. Let's say I paid $400 and it was a tax payment just for fun, because why wouldn't you want to do that? And so you can see right here, it subtracted that $400 and it lowered this total. So that kind of adjusts as needed, so you can see throughout the year how much you owe. And so the final tab, we've seen this one before, but now I just want to show you what it looks like with some data in place. So again, you can label it with a current year just to have something nice to print. Here I've added in some goals, and then what it does is this scorecard calculates based on the data that I've put into play. So I added some income and it's charting that, so I can see, like Hats Batman, March is an awesome month so far for me. Expenses were super low in January. February, not sure what was going on. I need to check out where I spent my money and why. It was basically equal to my income. And then right here, future invoices due. So again, this kind of helps me see, hey, look at that. I have, $7,000 coming up in invoice projects. The last chart is income by percentages. So this is what I was talking about, where these are my income sources for my business. And what it does is it calculates the percentage based on the total. So this column, the total is adding up from my business tab. So where I entered in, hey, I got this income from my complimentary code service. So then it adds it to this total. And then the percentage is taken, based on this amount divided by the total. So I can see, okay, you know what, these are pretty equal amounts. So kind of a long-winded video, but there's lots of information in here, and I just wanted to make you guys aware of how to use this document and how you can benefit from it. So feel free to download it. Again, I'm not an expert in taxes or accounting or finances. This is just what has worked for me throughout the years and kind of allowed me to come to my tax meetings with necessary information to keep my accountant happy. So feel free to download it, adjust it, figure out what works best for you, and leave a comment in the comments below letting me know what you're excited about with this spreadsheet, or if you go ahead and dive in and use it, what you really love about it. So I hope you guys enjoy getting nerdy with some numbers, and go ahead and download that spreadsheet and get started on your own.